Hey there, and welcome to the Fiihr Factor, the podcast that shines a light on real stories, smart strategies, and the occasional hard truth about running a business. Think of this as your quick dose of clarity before your first cup of coffee. Let's go. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try to get this pronunciation right, Mauricio Berber. Close.
That's good. That's
Now
good.
you say it the
We'll
right
take
way.
Mauricio Berber.
Okay, yes, it just sounds better. I'm just, you know, hey, I'm a guy, I'm a dude from Iowa. So what do you expect?
Hey, that's good for a dude from Iowa.
Well, hey, thank you for taking the time today. I'd love to get right into it. Looks like you are a bit of a serial entrepreneur.
Yes, that is true.
And I like
Guilty.
that you also have started a charity. So talk to me, give me a little bit of your history and what you've been up to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, how far do you want to go back? Because we can go back to the beginning, or we can just kind of catch you up where. I mean, I'm not going to be long-winded, but I think the insight might be beneficial for
Sure.
the listeners. Yeah, so born in a village, dirt floors, no running water, no bathroom. That was back in 1982. I'm old now. But yeah, so lived there for first 6, 7 years of my life, raised by my grandma for a couple of years, and then made the trek to the States in 1993. That's when I can literally say, I used to be ashamed of this. I ran across the border, and that's really where my entrepreneurship was awakened. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good start to a story, by the way. I don't think I know I haven't interviewed anybody that started out in with dirt floors and no bathroom. So it's quite
Yeah.
a rags to riches beginning. So yeah, please keep going. This is very interesting.
Thank you. No, yeah. So obviously today I wake up every morning pinching myself because when, as an 8-year-old kid running across the border, if you had told me you're going to be experiencing all of these things, I would have just said you're crazy. Because really, truly, where we come from is very limited beliefs of you are going to, especially in that village, right? You're going to have a family by the time you're like 21, and then you're going
Mm,
to have 4 kids and work in a farm, and you're going to make $25 a week, and that's the norm. Well, my dad had bigger vision, and he was like, no, we can't have our kids do this. So he made sacrifice to come over. So now we're here, and we in the land of opportunity. We've never seen stoplights, we've never seen restaurants, we've never seen
mm.
skyscrapers. This is all like a whole crazy world for us. So for me, and I like to tell this story when I do share my story, is that I was already kind of entrepreneur because my grandma would basically the way we fed ourselves was through to sell food on the street. So we would sell food on the street. That was the first like glimpse of entrepreneurship, right? Coming to the States, we had to basically stay in a limited, like we had to stay kind of hidden because we were illegal aliens, really. And so we were allowed to go to Sunday to a swap meet, and we'd get $5. And I found this old comic book stand, and with my limited English that I knew, I started to see kids were really excited about these colorful books. So I would go buy them for 10 cents a piece, go to school, talk them up because I noticed that they were really excited about the number one, number two editions. I started to market those. I would exchange them for really fancy X-Men comic holographics, go into the comic book the next week, sell them for a much higher profit, and eventually I was able to afford my own calculator, which till the day I like to say, my dad accused me of stealing, which I've never stolen anything in my life, proud to say. But he was like, "Where are you getting all this money?" And I was like, "Well, I'm basically flipping it." And so that was the first actual like business venture that I had in like third, fourth grade.
That's amazing. And you use the money to buy a calculator.
A calculator that I needed, yes.
Man, how awesomely nerdy and cool is that?
I know. Comic books, calculators, yeah.
You still have it?
No, no, I wish I would've kept it because it would've been like a trophy that I would've kept, but no, I don't even know where it is anymore.
Okay, awesome. All right, so then you ended up you started early with building businesses. Then how did you get what was the next step for you?
So hungry, man. I was so hungry. Just one of those things where my parents were trying to feed 3 kids with a $20,000 a year salary combined. And I saw that, there was two routes. My older brother ended up going the route of hanging whoever embraced us first at school was their circle of influence, right? He went the route of gangs and having the affiliation with gangsters. My was I'm gonna go and live through these kids that were essentially the more affluent families, and I was like the poor kid that just hung out and got like a free meal kind of thing, right? But in my mind, I was dreaming, and I was like, I want to have a home like this, to smell like this, because we still lived in a little trailer with no electricity here in the States. So that just it sparked a hunger in me, and I was like, I gotta do like I want to get out of here, right? So that hunger led to obviously wanting to do really good in whatever I set my eyes on. First thing was selling shoes at a store. I excel at that, and then I applied for to be a bank teller. I got lucky and I excelled at that to where I got the opportunity to become the youngest manager for Bank of America at the time in California. I was at the age of 21. So I had bought my first house, which was I want to say 2 times the size of my parents' house was. At the time, I was a bank manager. I remember walking into the place and I had this oversized suit, pimply face, and I'm like, "So," and somebody walked up to me and they're like, "Can we help you?" And I was like, "Yeah, where's my office?" And they're like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "I'm the new bank manager." The lady was like, "What?" It's just the craziest thing, and that led to opportunities where I met my business partner of 20 years today. He was my assistant manager, and then the gates opened because I started to embrace mentorship, which he mentored me for a long time, and then I discovered the power of visualization. So once I discovered the secret and I started doing vision boards, it was game over after that. Because then I just went crazy with dreaming.
Okay, so this is awesome. So clearly you started making money and you also were very smart and didn't spend the money. You invested it in, I mean, in real estate at home. So that's brilliant at 21 because I could see the other thing happening. Oh wow, I'm making all this cash. I'm gonna go, buy fancy cars and stuff that is really a waste. But instead, you decided to be smart and invest in property.
It was very tempting to do what my friends were doing, right? But one of the things I want, and this is actually interesting. When I first started making money, real money at the bank, all my friends around me were drinking and partying and doing dumb things, right? And in my mind, this lady, her name is Dolores Wells. I'll never forget D Wells. She said you should start a 401k, and I'm like, what's that? So she introduced me to 401k really early on, and I'm like, all right, cool. In my mind, I was like, well, my friends are getting girls pregnant. They're having going to jail. So I'm going to pretend like I made a big mistake and I got a girl pregnant and I had a baby. So I named my 401k Little Bertha. And I remember I was like, this is my child support. I'm just feeding Bertha. And it was because of Little Bertha that I had amassed enough savings to be able to take the leap when the time came. Which, by the way, that was a super scary moment in my life because here I am feeling like I'm on top of the world. In my parents' eyes, I'm very successful. In my eyes, I'm like I'm limited because I feel like I can do much better than this.
Mm,
And so when I made the conscious decision to quit my job, which people thought I was crazy, I was stupid, I was throwing my life away, it
yes.
was one of the scariest, loneliest times because the only one that I had on my side was my mentor. And it was like, are we doing this? And it's like, I'm prepared to be homeless. Like that's how bad I want this. And in my mind, I told myself, I'd rather live in the oh wells than the what ifs. I don't want to be 35 and wonder what would have happened if I would have taken the leap. I'd rather just be 35 and say, "Oh well, I tried, I failed," which we did. And that was a mindset that I took on.
So that, yeah, the funny thing is, especially for somebody that came from really almost nothing, to have a job as a bank manager at 21, like you're moving up fast in corporation. I bet your parents are like, "Are you nuts? Like you made it. You did the whole thing, and now you're gonna just throw it away and go start a business? That's crazy." And
Business a business that failed the first 3 businesses that we did failed, by the way, so that
oh my
made it even
gosh,
worse. Yeah, yeah, it made it even more scarier because it was kinda like, well, 2 years go by, you're exhausted, your 401k, you're going back home to actually, when I speak to I do some speaking, motivational speaking to kids that are graduating from high school, and I tell them about the fact that I had to literally separate myself from my own family for a while because I couldn't be around them or else I would have believed what they were thinking. And then my mind is like, no, I'm dreaming. I got to do this. And I tell the story of the two little frogs. You probably heard the story of the two frogs?
I don't know. Yeah, hit me.
The
Let's see.
There's 2 little so I like it because it's so powerful in the sense of, like, the actual message. There are 2 frogs in a hole. They're stuck, and there's a whole bunch of frogs at the top saying, "Give up, you're gonna die," and they're jumping, and they're jumping, and they're jumping, and one of them makes it out, and the other one dies. The one that makes it out was deaf and thought they were cheering her to get out, the one that was in the hole and died, believed what they were saying and ended up giving in. So the difference between the circle of influence, right?
Yes.
Huge.
Well, and so I want to hit two things here. Number one, the mindset. So you had to surround yourself with people that believed in your vision, and you had to move away from or separate yourself and avoid people that were just negative or didn't think you could do what you were going to do. Correct?
Had to, yeah. I purged my circle of influence about 4 times in my lifetime.
Wow, and sounds like very intentional.
Very intentional. Yes.
So mindset. How do you always then continue to have a positive mindset?
Again, circle of influence makes a world of a difference. For me, I'm very optimistic. I think that was kind of like a survival trait. It's coming into the States. It was like you have to see the glass half full versus half empty
Yes.
and really compare to what you could have been at your, home country. And so for me, it was like, this is amazing. Like life is great. Yeah, you see it. You see the problem. I see the opportunity. That became a survival skill. And nowadays, I think what keeps me motivated and excited is the ability to pay it forward and give back.
Mm.
Especially when I see and I mentor kids or young adults that are like, "Hey, I'm trapped in this glass ceiling of love," and it's normal. Parents will want to protect you, so they want you to stay safe in the safe zone. You got a steady paycheck, let's leave it there. But what if we can unleash your potential and get it to be even bigger? Your parents would be even more proud, and you could take care of them forever. So I try to break those ceilings of, yeah, I get it. They love you. My parents love me to death. I know that, but you could do more if you tried.
That's brilliant. And then I want to come back to vision boards because you mentioned them. Tell me more. Tell me more. Oh, you got one behind. Yes, you got one behind you right now. Like,
I have one. My wife has one. The first time I talked to her about it, she thought I was trying to recruit her into a cult because I told her how powerful it was. I said, you are a product of my vision board. Literally, I down to the name, you are a product of my vision board." And she kind of freaked out because I was like, that's how precise and how good I've gotten at these things. And it takes practice and it takes time. But I think my first vision board was about 19 years old, and where I said, I want to be the younger manager. The youngest at the time was 25. I said, I want to be 24. And then I hit it at 21. So once I saw that, and I'm like, well, if I can do that, what else can I do? And then it just started getting crazier after that, to the point where I've gone to the World Cup in Brazil, just threw it up there. I've sold one of our businesses. We sold one of our businesses. There's been so many things. Even our baby, who has, my wife has hazel eyes, I have light brown eyes. I put on my vision board this baby with big cheeks, big lips, and blue eyes, and I took a picture, and literally, like, had to show my wife, like, "Look at this," and she's like, "Oh," because they were so similar. We had put that 2 years ago, so it's
oh my
crazy.
gosh. So that's
Yeah.
so in vision boards, you have a lot of specificity. My family, we do this every year on New Year's Eve. We get all the magazines out, and then we just start cutting stuff out, and then we tape it on the thing, and then show and then talk about what we're going to do next year. And so that's a really fun activity for us. You're talking about like next level vision board.
We've gotten down. My wife is very like on into spreadsheets and stuff. So once she understood the power of it, she was able to see what it could do. She's like, we gotta like systematize this. It's cool. So we make it's a year-long exercise where if a goal comes up in the middle of February, you write it down, and I'm gonna make this in December. And then now we have a template, and now we utilize AI, because before it was very difficult to find an image where you saw yourself. Now we just upload it, say, I want to look like I'm doing this, boom, and it's it's your face and everything. So it's now we're just kind of evolving in that practice, but it's the same exercise, right? Just now more, I think, more effective and more visual.
Yeah. So any tips on getting started with this idea?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell this to everybody that I encounter. It's like, go do yourself a favor, watch the movie The Secret with an open mind. Go watch it, go see it, absorb it, and then just take what you will from it. I've experienced folks that are super religious that are like, not my thing, to actually wanting to like see it and say, just look at it from an open mind. Don't look at it as they're trying to swap out religion. And I've had people who completely are like, and I remember seeing this one young guy who I was mentoring. I was like, let's go and let's dream of your house, your dream home. Let's go and Google. And he's you could tell his believes are limited because he was kept looking at these little tiny houses, and I was like, "That's the house. If there's no limit in the world of money, that's the house you would want." Well, that's what I could afford. No, 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 no. Like, dump that. Let's go dream. And then he got excited. Well, can I get a really cool car? I was like, why can't you? So it's one of those things where once you get into the mindset of it and you get into it, it's good. But the secret, I think, is the opening for me. Anyways, it was.
Very, very cool. Okay, great to know. Thank you for that. Okay, so
Absolutely.
you started three businesses. They failed. Big Bertha is baby Bertha is dead Bertha because your 401k is dead.
Yeah.
What 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 was the difference in number four?
Okay, so and this is it was a blessing that we didn't even realize that we were getting back in 2006, 2007, right? So we get into a situation where we discover telematics, GPS tracking, and it's finally becoming widely available across commercial sectors. Well, we started by selling review cameras. That was the business that we actually jumped into by accident. So that partnership with the camera guy who was doing the camera installs failed, and then we've invested too much, we have to just keep it going. So we did, and through that network we discovered telematics, which at the time was really early on. And then you have a bad economy coming in 2007, 2008, right? So then we're presenting this very expensive $1,000 piece of equipment that we're saying it's going to help you save money and be more optimal and create more efficiency. And they're kicking us left and right out their office, like, get out of here, you're selling me hot soup on a hot day. Rejection, rejection, rejection. Come 2010 or so, it's just widely adopted today. The technology is basically free, and then the adoption rate is huge, right? Even from OEMs. But why I say that was a blessing was because for the first 2 years of doing that venture, we made no money and we were getting rejected left and right. Yet in our minds, we were like, this is going to be huge. We know it will.
Huge.
And thanks to that persistence, we developed a niche. We went after a market, and then we ended up exiting that company that we had for 18 years last year. And we actually got a multiple that most of our partners out there are not able to get. And they're like, why did you get that crazy multiple? And it just happened the way that it was positioned, the way it was set up, how we positioned it, how we marketed it, and it just, yeah. So it was really, really cool to see that come
Yeah,
into.
I like the way that you see there's positive mindset again. You're like, oh yeah, that was a blessing. We ground for 2 years and didn't sell anything, and So what? How did you refine your pitch, or what was the pivot point where you're like, did the tech just get cheaper, and so then people could afford your idea, or what happened?
Well, it was like I call it a Christmas miracle, to be honest. We were basically down the fumes at the table. We had hustle left and right, and that we even had, we try to get money wherever we could. I was painting. I was sitting on board of directors of the San Diego County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, where we got sworn in by the mayor of San Diego. Very fancy, very high title. I was one of the younger ones there, and it was like, okay, well, I couldn't be seen in public selling fast food, but I needed the cash to stay afloat. So I would go paint at military bases, Camp Pendleton and Oceanside at nighttime from 9 to like midnight. And I remember almost crying because I was like, I threw away a career. Maybe they were right. I'm getting $9 an hour. And that
Yeah,
was so hard because at the time, I was working for my little brother who had got me the gig. And so that was very hard to swallow. I mean, it was so hard on the ego, on the pride, and on the motivation. So, a Christmas miracle, we get an account of a guy named Mark Iverson. I'll never forget the guy. He's my hero. He's like, I believe in this system. I believe in what it can do. We're going to deploy it to an entire fleet, and we're going to pay you upfront for a year, which was like, what? Servicing and everything. It was like a $240,000 contract.
wow.
And that saved us hands down because what ended up happening is not only did they pay it upfront, it's like a line of credit for us to survive,
Yes.
but also he started talking about it to everybody and all of his friends. He had so much influence. It just snowballed into this massive thing. And now we're like the go-to experts for the government water districts in California. And then all of a sudden it just spiraled and it just grew. So that was on December 24th, we got the call saying we
Literally
got
a
the
Christmas miracle.
literally, and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, this is insane." So we've been honestly, everything has been a product of faith, giving back, and just staying persistent. Because even this next business we sold, right, and then this next business we've already been in this for 6 years, bootstrapping the whole thing. No investors. We're putting in our money. Then on what September 2022, we get the call saying we haven't made much money on this. We've already put in like $1 million of our own money into this. And they're like, your code is so bad that if you don't fix it and start from scratch, this thing's going to just keep breaking. You're just going to keep dumping money. And then we're like, oh no, do we just give up or do we keep going? We've already done this for, 5, 6 years. And so again, too early, rejection, rejection, rejection. And finally we're getting to that point of people are just embracing us and saying, where have you been? It just feels so good.
So that's Predictive Coach, and this is the basically AI. Well, no, it's using GPS and tracking technology to make sure our drivers or fleet drivers are driving correctly. Would that be?
Yeah, we're pioneering something that hasn't been done. So having been in the industry for 20, 18 years plus, we understood what the bigger challenges were right at the trenches where the fleet managers were struggling. And we identified that not only are drivers killing other drivers, are killing themselves as a result of little bad habits that could be changed. When we look at the traditional way of how driver training is assessed, it's designed to fail because of you can't scale it. You can't be consistent. You can't have the same conversations. It's just not scalable. So we ended up getting a patent, a 20-year patent on the ability to be able to gather the data from an accelerometer and then coach in real time based on that specific behavior and micro lessons. So it's changing the game because case studies have found that through our method, we can reduce risk by up to 73%, which is really unheard of in the industry. One of the only ones that can close that safety loop right now. We know competitors are coming, but today, as it stands, we're the only ones that can close that loop and change the behavior in real time.
So it's so somebody swerves or slams on the brakes or something like that. They get immediate feedback on that.
Yeah, so instead of a feedback, right? So instantly, like most companies out there think feedback is a beep in the cab or a noise from the cab that says, "Hey, slow down," or "Hey, you're distracted." When you dig down into the driver ecosystem and what they're experiencing, you ask them, "What does a beep do?" It annoys me. It's nuisance. It doesn't tell me how to fix it. It just tells me that I did made a mistake. So for us, is we actually allow the fleet to set their own risk tolerance, and we say, for your organization, let's just say that no two drivers drive the same on any given day. Mauricio and Warren are very different. I could have a perfect Monday through Thursday. On Friday morning, somebody cuts me off and it causes me to start driving aggressively. I could end up driving so aggressive that I can end up hurting somebody, right? Well, for us, it's like, let's just say that your risk tolerance for hard braking is 3 infractions, 3 incidents per day, right? If by 9 a.m. you've broken those 3 allowable infractions, at 9:01 you're getting a specific course on hard aggressive driving. That's 3 minutes. It has a knowledge check, and we get to document it all automatically for the fleet. So not only can they keep their pulse on safety, we're making the drivers held accountable by applying the Hawthorne effect. And so now they're being held accountable. They understand their accountability, and the fleet reduces their risk dramatically without having to lift a finger. It's beautiful.
Wow, that's amazing. It's got to help. Well, safety first. Insurance. I assume there's some insurance byproducts that come down the road, or they can save money on insurance. Correct.
We've seen adjustments. We've seen situations where use cases where a fleet was about to lose their insurance because they've had too many they have culture issues. We went in there, deployed, and it changed in a matter of like 60 days, which is unheard of. You take about 2 years to change a culture. But what's beautiful is accountability across the board. Everybody's equal. We're not seeing race, age, gender. We're just seeing data. So we're just applying that whether you're in California, New York, or in Texas, you're getting the same exact training for the same behavior. So that made it universal, which also embraced unions and insurance companies alike to say, well, we want our members to make it home safely because that's the
Yes.
end goal,
Yeah.
but we also want them to be treated fairly, right? Equitably. And that's exactly what we're getting. And the insurance company is saying, we're tired of getting hit with nuclear verdicts because the nuclear verdict strategy is on point. You've probably seen the Texas Hammer commercials. They know they have an Achilles heel with any time they subpoena GPS tracking records, they're going to ask the question in front of the jury if they get to the jury, and they're going to say, Warren, Mauricio was driving like a madman for the last 6 months. And I see here he was speeding, doing all this thing. What did you do about it? And the answer 95% of the time is going to be, I gave him a course when I hired him 3 years ago, like a
Mhm.
generic course. And then that's when the jury's like, you're the villain, you put profits over people, we're going to punish you. And instead of asking for $500,000 in damages, we're going to ask for 50 million. Case closed. And so with our system, we're flipping that. It's like you have evidence that you've literally taken action right after the events are identified and specific to that behavior. Not only that, you can also show data trend that the behavior for Warren has gone significantly better, less aggressive over time since he's been in the program. So it's a game changer for sure.
Wow, that's amazing. I could see, yeah. So there's a liability protection component in this thing as well. Wow. And I'm sure
Yeah.
you're going to have insurance companies recommending you to fleets from now pretty soon, right? Or if they're not already, as
That
another.
yeah, we're starting to see that now, and the goal is we're grooming ourselves for an acquisition by an insurance company because we feel like this is phase one. Phase two is we really want to go into the teen market to identify and change the behaviors before they get really bad. So we want to go into the teen driving market. So if they can take both sides, stop the pain on both ends, I think they're gonna be very happy.
Now, I think, the little tracker thing that I have in my car is probably costing me more money than making me more money because I may tend to drive fast once in a while. So I should probably just shut that thing off.
Yeah, that's all. If we're being real, that's all data collection that the insurance company says they'll never use against you, but it's all data collection that's eventually going to come back around. I mean, that's if we're being real, it's they're not doing it for free or for
Yeah,
the
they're not doing it to
cognizant.
give us a discount necessarily. That's what you're
No,
saying.
no.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me this. So you had the same business partner for decades. What are some great business partner coaching tips, or before I enter into a relationship with a business partner, do you have any sage advice?
Absolutely. Understanding how bad the stats are on partnerships, it's like divorce, right? It ends up being about money, about a power struggle, distrust, communication. And really, if you look at it from a stance of like a marriage, I come from a family where my parents have been married for 45 years. My wife's parents have been married for like 40 years. And my business partner, he's very strong Catholic, so very strong values there. We really got into an agreement early on that we're gonna have full transparency. We're never gonna make this about money. Anytime we have doubts or we talk about it, and we also have respect. Whether our age gap is 12 years, it doesn't matter. We're equals. And because he was able to do that, give me that respect, even when employees were trying to go, or even when we had meetings, right? We go to these big board meetings, and I'm just the little guy, and he's like, "Well, you're gonna have to get his approval as well." And so I got that respect very early on, and I appreciated it, and I didn't take for granted. So what ended up happening is now we have a situation where it's very well balanced. I remember early on, and this was really early on when we weren't making much money. I had, I was hustling, and I was like, "Look, my expenses are about $700 a month." He had kids going to private school. He had a stay at home wife, and so it was kind of one of those things like, look, I'm willing to give up some of my revenue so that you don't go back to your day job, and we keep each other afloat. So it was almost like a marriage where we combine our incomes,
Wow.
and we're like, whatever comes in, we just cover our expenses, right? And we were very good about that. We were very good about not being excessive. Just cover your bases. And for me, my motivator was I need him, and he was like I need him. So we needed each other, and the communication was strong. I think because of that, we built a really strong bond. So much so that I will say he was the best man at my wedding, and I have 2 brothers, so imagine how that went.
I love it. Yeah, that's serious commitment. Okay, what about? Sounds like you really, you were grinding, grinding, grinding. So I like that you talked about being lean and making sure you stay lean until you have cash flow. What? Talk to me about like what else when you were starting up. If you could go back and do one thing maybe differently, what would that be?
I would say continue to tap into mentorships, right? Because like we were 2 guys trying to figure this out. Have we seeked out more mentorship outside of our network, which we tried, but it was just very difficult. I think today, in today's day and age, you almost have no excuse not to be able to find a mentor. LinkedIn didn't exist really at the time, so we were kind of like wherever we can find it to guide us, and we would often pick the brains of people that we looked up to and have lunch, but they weren't exactly in our industry or they didn't have the time. So if you are going into a business, and remember that the path is can be scary, can be lonely. Remember, just lean on that mentorship. It'll save you so much time. And now that you have AI, jump in there, dig deep. I mean, there's so many tools available today where it's a very good chance you can make it through by leaning into the support.
It's great, great advice. So, okay, well, I want to ask you one more question, then I'm going to go into my speed round, which is three questions. Okay. So the last question: how do you know when to build a team, and who do you get on your team?
Well, that's a great question. So we learned from being in our first that business we just exited, that we were too heavy on personnel. Our overhead was too high. And we had a it was interesting because we I'm a big fan of always going towards the uncomfortable so that we can grow, right? You got to grow, you got to be uncomfortable. And we knew that in order for us to grow, we needed to run even leaner because we were self-funding this thing, the Predictive Coach. So when we made the decision to sell and lean out, we already had in mind like who are our key players. And interestingly enough, this is something that I'm a big fan of. You cannot teach somebody to have a hard work ethic. You can teach them how to use systems and all the other things,
Yep.
but the hard work ethic just comes naturally. You got to identify those individuals. So when we went to pick the team, our all stars, it was like it doesn't matter what their resumes say. We had the person, and we have a person in our team who was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. Our VP of ops was saying, "Don't hire her because she just doesn't have the qualifications." And I'm like, "I have a feeling this girl is going to kill it for us. Let's bring her on." She's with us still today, and she's one of the hardest individuals we know, and she's grown so much. So I say, always go with your gut and lean in on that potential, that hunger, that drive, that you can then teach them the other skills, or AI can help them learn those skills. But the leaner you are and the more you lean on tools that are automate your process and create systems in place to where you just have a few key individuals to run those engines, I'm seeing that more and more. And we're embracing that because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you have 30 people on payroll or you have five that are doing the same amount of work. Your profits are going to be better when you're lean, right? So
Yeah.
that's important.
I have said this for years and years and years. I'll take one killer person over two marginal people. You'll get more done, and you can pay the killer person 50% more, and you're still saving
Yeah,
money.
exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so speed round. Here we go. First question:
Yeah.
if you were an animal, what animal would you be?
Gorilla.
Gorilla. That is awesome. Gorilla. Very. I haven't heard gorilla before. That's a good one. I like it. Will you tell me why?
I love monkeys, man. I've always loved monkeys, and I think gorilla happens to be like the top of the chain. And yeah, it's just something like I identify with a gorilla
I
and a
love it.
monkey. I call myself a little monkey actually, but always was a smaller, scrawny guy. But a gorilla would be cool.
Okay, next question. What do you want to be when you grow up?
At the risk of sounding corny, I want to be a philanthropist, man. Like I feel like the end goal here is that once we reach that finish line, I was put on this earth to give back, and I feel that's my calling. I aside from all of the religious teachings that I've learned, I feel like the theme across the board has been give to those that are in need. And having started the foundation when we were very young, I still feel that in my heart. There's a reason for me being here and having all these blessings and having almost died a few times. You ask yourself, like, why did I survive? Like, how come I'm still here? And it's like there's got to be a purpose. And so I feel philanthropy is my main calling.
That's beautiful. And a little plug for your foundation, really quick.
Yeah, so started with giving toys to kids in Mexico, back in 2004, 2005. And then it grew into giving scholarships to kids that are in need here in the States. And so that's continuing to grow. We take X percentage of our proceeds go into the foundation, and then we give scholarships to kids that are needing books and all that stuff.
That's amazing. Last question. I think this will be related. So, when you're gone, what do you want? What are people going to remember about you?
I thought about that. So the legacy I want to instill in at least my kids, because I love them to death, is I wanted to look at the highways and understand that dad pioneered something that changed them and that saved a whole bunch of lives. I feel at the end of it all, yeah, this business is going to be monetized and all that. But if you think about all the tragedies that are happening out there as a result of bad habits, we actually have the ability to change that, and we're pioneering that. So if I could have anything that I could be remembered by, would be my dad or Mauricio changed the highways, and he was a pivotal part in pioneering technology that is global. That would be amazing.
That's amazing. Literally saving lives and changing the world like a superhero, just like the comic books that you used to sell back in the day, right?
It's full circle because all of our All of our stuff in Predictive Coach is superhero themed, as you saw, like, here's a little
Yes.
mascot with a little so, like, literally, it's full circle, yeah.
I love it. I love you got that whole theme through your whole life. It's beautiful. Well, Mauricio, I really appreciate your time. I'm so thankful for you and what you do and how you're saving lives and love your story. It was
Thank you.
beautiful.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for listening and me ramble. But yeah, no, I really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope we get to have lunch because we're right, in the same city. We gotta do it.
It's a done deal.
Okay.
Liked what you heard? Let's make it real. Schedule your free coaching session today at sugarland.actioncoach.com.